Talked to Leanne. She's popped her neck. I got all kinds of pain pills in hers.
Don't go.
Been out. He never even changed clothes.
Them girls got me cooked.
I'm gonna ask him to put himself on the front page of his paper.
You know, somebody said he needed one more picture. So he used his. Good.
You see him, you like to stand up?
Glad I'm sitting in the boat with you. Thank you.
Who? You said who? Boom shack.
Okay. For real.
You know what I'm saying? You know. That's a two-shotter. That's a two-shotter there.
Well, yeah. We popping. That's us. That's right. We be cool.
We be new. He sacrificed two of them.
None. That's always a good thing. Nothing, honey. Nothing, honey. I'm just happy. Just happy to be here. Happy to be here and serving. What else is going on? In the numbers. Anything we need to be? No? Want to turn that off?
Ready?
Nah, let's leave it open. It's good for publicity. It'll come soon enough. It'll come soon enough. What time is it? Oh, I got a minute.
Like in the team.
The meeting of Shreveport City Council is now called to order. If everybody will go ahead and silence their phones or place them on vibrate. I'll ask Councilman Talaferro to lead us in the prayer, and I'll ask Councilman Brooks to lead us in the pledge.
Please stand. Heavenly Father, you've given us a new year to do things right, to do things for the public that we serve. And Lord, we know that we cannot do this alone, that it is all about you and your kingdom that we must rely on, to treat our fellow man with dignity and respect, and be good servants of those that trust us to be their voice. Lord, we ask your many blessings upon those who are less fortunate than ourselves. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Talaferro. I didn't know you can pray like that. So the call's on you a little bit more.
Thank you, Jesus.
Want to welcome our mayor back. We are going to join in and doing a hokey pokey, putting your left foot in, then your right hip in.
Just watch that. Just watch that left hip movement.
The left hip, okay. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Taylor, present. Councilman Brooks.
Here.
Councilman Talaferro.
Here, ma'am.
Councilman Butcher. Councilman Jackson.
I'm here.
Councilman Green.
I'm here.
And Councilwoman Bowman.
Present.
Tomorrow, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the Administrative Conference and City Council combined meeting Thursday, December 19, 2024. Does any council member have any awards, recognition, or distinguished guests not to exceed 15 minutes?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Councilwoman Taylor, you may
Dr.
proceed.
Vetter, would you please come forward, please?
Mr.
Council
Chair,
members.
I'm in hopes that my guest would be here tomorrow.
You made me lose my train of thought. I have Dr. Vetter that is coming before us today. As many of you all know, there have been a number of earthquakes that have occurred within our region. And so I want him to provide some level of clarity to calm some fears about what we're experiencing in our region. So, Dr. Vetter, thank you so much for coming to the Shreveport City Council today. I'll allow you to introduce yourself and state your credentials.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Scott Vetter. I'm the chair of the Department of Geology at Centenary College. Been at Centenary College for 36 years and everything, and I enjoy doing this, and I'll tell you a little bit about what we're experiencing here in this neck of the woods, and then open it up for any type of questions. So that as we know, is this? Mm-hmm. Let me see here. Oh, okay. So in just less than a week ago, I guess a little over a week now, there was an earthquake about 6 kilometers southeast of Mooresport. Had a magnitude of 3, which is a very small earthquake. Had a depth of about 5 kilometers, and it was felt by a number of people who called it. And there's a map that shows the location, shows Shreveport and where the epicenter was. This is the response of people that called in. And intensity 3 is really not felt by a lot of people. If you look at this is a scale that we use to talk about intensity is the amount of damage that is possible. It goes from 1 to 12, and this was a 3. And if you look at this is a 3, as it says here, is felt by several people. It's a vibration similar to if you stand or is near a highway and a tractor trailer goes by. The little bit of vibration you feel is it. Maybe some hanging, if you had a hanging plant, may move just a little bit, but really nothing much. And is it an earthquake? It's just a release of energy. It's all about energy, folks. And here in this part of the world, in Louisiana, we're not like California. We're not going to have a big earthquake. Basically, our earthquakes here in Louisiana are very shallow, 5 kilometers or less, very, very slight earthquakes, usually associated with what we geologists call growth faults. And this area was a large basin, lots of sediment, and that sediment moves every once in a while type of thing. It's not like the San Andreas Fault. We're never going to have an earthquake up in the 6, 7s, or 8s, which are what you need for a lot of damage. This is just kind of a cartoon of we have a lot of sediments, and what happens is it slips and it produces these little movements, and it's those movements that produce this very slight amount of vibration that we feel. This is recent. Over the last, the question is how often do they occur? Well, this is the United States Geological Society, and over the last 8 months, there was 10 earthquakes in this region around Shreveport. None of them above 3.1 on the Richter scale type of thing. In that same time, out of that 10, let me go back here a minute. Out of that 10, there were 17 total in the whole state, most of them in South Louisiana. Again, very similar earthquakes to what we feel up here. Frequency of 3, magnitude 3, there's 100,000 earthquakes a year in the world. So, yeah, the chances are we're going to have some. They're not very minor. Most people don't feel them, type of thing. There's really no structural damage that occurs with a 3. And again, the largest was back in, I think it was 1920 something. It was like a 4.1 or something like that type of thing. Causes of earthquakes, magma. We don't have magmas around here. There's no volcanoes. Collapses of underground mines. There's no underground mines here. Explosive, unless Barksdale has done something we don't know, there's none of that. Movement of plates. We're not in a plate boundary. We're a very stable region, and so that doesn't count. So the last two creep along these growth faults, and then the one that a lot of people are worried about is human inducted due to fracking or wastewater injection. I want to speak about those two for a moment. Fracking started back in 1947. It's not new. It's been around a very long time. Over 100,000 wells have been fracked since that time, and very, very few of them have produced any type of earthquakes. That doesn't mean that they don't. They do occur somewhat, but they're very, very rare and minor type of thing. This is probably what you folks think about here with the Haynesville, where they drilled down and then they went horizontally. And what they do is they actually produce a small little earthquake, but micro, I mean, we're talking like negative numbers as far as the magnitude, can't even be felt type of thing. But what they're trying to do is break open the rock to allow that passage of the Haynesville gas to come out so it can be relieved. To do that, they have to pump fluid down there and some sand and type of things under pressure to kind of expand the rock type of thing. Most of that stays down in the substrate. The Haynesville, about 12,000 feet deep. So that's over 2 miles deep below our feet as we stand type of thing. Now, what turns out, though, is normal oil production, not fracking, but normal, actually produces a lot of wastewater. When oil and gas are formed, they form in a marine environment, and they trap a lot of water along with the oil and gas. And when they drill, they have to get rid of that. It drills, and the oil and gas comes up, but a bunch of water comes up. And that's called wastewater. And they have to get rid of that. And they get rid of it by pumping it into deep wells. And these deep wells are 15,000 feet deep. But they put it under pressure. And some of that, very little of that wastewater is fracking material. It is mostly from normal oil drilling type of thing. A little bit in Ohio and Arkansas, they have a little more fracking material than we do. But in Oklahoma, which is the biggest one where we have induced earthquakes, only about 10% of all their wastewater is from fracking. type of thing. So there's a debate on whether or not fracking really has the fracking itself will not cause earthquakes. It's the wastewater that may produce it. There's some other ways. I'm not going to worry about these. But let's go about misconceptions, okay, and the truth. And this is from a paper by the USGS back in 2017, I think it was. Misconception that fracking is causing all these induced earthquakes. And the correction is that's a misconception. Fracking is a very small portion of it. Most of the induced earthquakes are due to deep disposal of this wastewater type of thing. Misconception number 2 is that wastewater injection in these wells is spent fracking fluid. Again, the correction is very small amount of that is from fracking type of thing. Most of it, again, is from normal production wells. Misconception number 3 is there would be no need for wastewater disposal if we didn't have fracking. Again, misconception because, again, normal oil and gas production produces wastewater. Okay? So stopping fracking isn't going to stop it. The fourth misconception is that these induced earthquakes only occur around injection sites of the wastewater. That's not true. You can have an earthquake that the well where they pump it in, you can have an earthquake that occurs about 10 kilometers. That's about 6 miles away, and it can be deeper than the well itself, type of thing. And misconception number 5 is that all injection wells, all these wastewater induces earthquakes, and that's false. We have over 100,000 wells since 1947, and there's very few, a very small percentage that causes any type of inducement of earthquakes. And when they are induced, they are very small. Around this region, as I said, no greater than about a 3, mostly even smaller, about a 2 or so. Most of us never feel them, type of thing. Our instruments can pick them up, but the humans cannot, type of thing. I'm not going to worry about that. So summary is there's been approximately 9 earthquakes in northwest Louisiana over the past year, compared to 17 in the entire state. All of them have been magnitude 3 or below, or about 3.1 or below, very shallow, resulting in no reported loss of life, no reported structural damage, possibilities, movement along these growth faults, and possibly some induced earthquakes due to injection of wastewater, not necessarily fracking, but just normal wastewater. The concerns, these earthquakes, they're going to continue. We're going to have them every so often, but the strengths are going to remain low, probably nothing more than what we saw a week ago, about a 3, with very little possibility of any type of loss of life or structural damage type of thing. So they will continue. There's nothing, that's nature. What we're doing is we're kind of lubricating the systems a little bit because it's a movement, and friction builds up. If you lubricate it a little bit, it reduces that friction a little bit. But there is no real concern to the general public or to any facility in this region of Louisiana.
Thank you so much.
There we go.
Thank you so much.
I'll take any type of questions you may want.
First question, do we get any credit from Centenary from having this lecture? I know we may have to take the test first, but I just want to make sure we get some college credit afterwards. Does any council member have any questions?
Dr. Vetter.
Yes.
Thank you for the summary that you have provided for us today. We received several phone calls from our constituents. I actually felt the little tremor twice at my home when it occurred. And so you just wanted to make sure that we calm the fears of our public, answer
Right.
whatever questions that they may have as it relates to this happening in our area. And you've given us a very good summary of how we move forward. looking at structural damage or anything else, or what could possibly occur. So with that being said, I appreciate you coming down and for Dr. Johnson locating you.
Oh, no problem. Around Blanchard, there is one waste deposed well by I think it's operated by UOP. But again, you would have to do a lot of research and find out what they're doing to find out whether what went on, let's say a week ago, is related to that. Probably not. But again, even if it was, these earthquakes are so minor that it upsets the people because we're not used to them.
Correct.
Okay, we're just not used to them. But there is very slim chance. I'm a scientist. I can't say no. I can't say never.
Right.
But there's a slim chance that anything's ever gonna happen with infrastructure or loss of life.
Okay. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Councilman Talaferro?
Thank you for the enlightenment, and I appreciate Councilwoman inviting you. Regarding the aquifer, the depth in which our typical earthquakes are felt or actually occur, does that have any play on the aquifer itself?
No. Basically, our aquifers around here are very, very shallow. The earthquakes are shallow, about 5 kilometers, which is about 3. If you go out this weekend and run a 5K race,
3.1,
3.1, 3.2 miles deep, our aquifers are much shallower. We're talking, at most a couple thousand feet type of thing. So no, they won't have any. With the size of the earthquakes, also there won't be any disturbance of any aquifer. There was one in that list of 10 in the last 8 months. There was one. The epicenter was centered in the middle of Caddo Lake, and there was not it was Caddo Lake, not Cross Lake.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Dr. Vetter, can we get a copy of your presentation?
Yes, I sent it
Okay.
to Dr. Johnson,
Okay.
so he has it.
Thank you so much, sir.
No problem.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for me, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Does any other council members have any award recognition of distinguished guests not to exceed 15 minutes?
Mine'll be tomorrow,
Okay.
hopefully.
Mr. Mayor, do you have any awards recognition of distinguished guests not to exceed 15 minutes?
I do not.
Do you have any communications relative to city business?
I don't today, but we will have an annual report, an annual crime report tomorrow. Instead of your monthly end of the month report, we're going to have an end of year report for you tomorrow on 2024.
Okay, thank you. Reports, does any members have any concerns relative to the property standard for Mr. Green?
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Same to you. I like that red.
It's good to see you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Green.
I have one question, if you don't. Mr. Green, we have talked specifically about this dumpster requirements for businesses and so forth.
Yes.
Can you just enlighten me on what's the dumpster requirements for like a merchandising business?
Well, I mean, it should have a
whether-
lid on it. That dumpster is like a roll-off dumpster. behind
Okay, the one at
business,
the
which-
at-home? Is it like a
Right.
roll-off?
Right, construction type dumpster. So there's nothing to keep all of that plastic on the inside.
Got it, okay,
That's at the home store, Mr. Clark.
okay, all righty. And so we just contact the owners or whomever and just tell them that that's not in
I'll
in
send it
alliance?
to Mr. Clark and
Oh, okay.
and Reginald.
All righty, good
And,
enough. Okay,
and they can.
thank you.
Vice Chair Green?
Mr. Green,
Yes.
I'd like to thank you. Out on Monkhouse, you did a care premise before. Now we have a beautiful slab out there, and I'd like to thank you for caring that premise.
You're welcome.
You're a whole mess.
You got some pictures?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You got some pictures?
And Councilman Brooks, I don't have that information yet, but I will be getting it to you. You should have it
Yes,
within
I
the
did.
next 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Yes.
I did. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Green.
All right.
Mr. Dark, do you have any pictures of my slab out there on Monkhouse that you could show the? I bet Shelley does. Okay. Those of you who are interested, check with Shelley. They got slab, pipes, everything. It's kind of like Night Street.
Concrete.
Yeah, concrete going on.
Everyone should have received the revenue collection plan invitation report from finance. Public hearing, there are none. Mr. Dart, would there be any legislation added to the agenda?
Chairman, we're trying to decide, there's one item, we have an item where we're going to be asking you to reject bids on some of the interior work on Fire Station 20, and the city attorney is trying to figure out if we're going to try to do that tomorrow or 2 weeks on the regular agenda. We'll try to let you know before the meeting's over.
Thank you. Today we will have public comments on non-agenda items and agenda items. Vice Chair, do we have any requests to speak?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. We have Mr. Keith. I dare not to try to say the last name because I can't understand it, so I won't mess it up. But Mr. Keith, come on up. You're welcome. Welcome to the Shreveport City Council meeting, and you have 3 minutes. You can state your name and address for the record.
Keith Bork,
All right.
and 2040 Fairwoods Avenue, Shreveport, 71106. I just wanted to see if there were any questions that any of you guys had on getting this property rezoned. If y'all have any questions or anything, I'd be glad to answer it. I've been to two MPC meetings. We kind of clarified, and they told me what needed to be done, and I agreed to that. And it's just a simple permit to be able to have a commercial business on residential property. That's my understanding of it.
What's the address?
110 Hadaway. It's right off of Forbing Road.
Item 160.
Hadaway, item 160.
Yeah. And, it's not going to be, when you see it, you're not going to think of a commercial business. I'm building more of a residential-looking place, mainly to do fundraisers. There's a couple of organizations in town I want to do fundraisers for. Hopefully, it will turn into a restaurant out there. But again, it's not going to be what I consider a commercial place where it's going to be surrounded by concrete. And it's in a residential area, and I'm going to build it to be as residential looking as possible. I want to improve the neighborhood, not bring it down. So,
Yeah, typically, Mr. Keith, we leave that at the discretion, too, of the council member. So we will be able to follow his lead if he received any responses from the neighborhood. And so he's not here today.
but I've spoken to him, and he said he has had no calls or complaints about it. So,
Okay,
and it's been approved by MPC.
okay.
But of course, I know you guys are the final say on it, so I'm hoping that y'all will approve it as well. I'd like to get started on this thing. It's been going on since February.
Thank
So,
you.
Anyway, again, it's to do good. I'm not doing it really as an income. I'm doing it as a fundraiser. If I can make enough money to pay for the place and maybe pay for a vacation every year, more power, but that's not the purpose of it. I'm doing it as a fundraiser. So hopefully y'all will approve that.
Thank you,
And
sir.
I didn't know if y'all had any questions, or I didn't know how much y'all knew about it, I guess is why I wanted to come up here in case y'all did have questions about it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Dwayne Robbins.
This is 160.
Mr. Robbins, welcome to the meeting. Thank you for coming. you state your name and address for the record, and you have 3
Dwayne
minutes.
Robbins, 4505 Bethune Drive. My concern in Shreveport is always cosmetics. Shreveport used to be a very clean city back in the day, very clean. Along I-20, the main thoroughfare going through the city, needs some attention. There's a lot of dead trees come and go each year, but no attention from the city, and it's an eyesore. If you invest in a wood chipper, bring the trees down, you got chips on the ground. Ask the box stores to donate a couple of trees and start landscaping. What's the problem? There's a spot there on 3230, whatever that highway is, right by the airport. The bushes come up and go down each year with no maintenance. I can't understand it. Where can I find the workers each day from the city doing what they're supposed to do around the city?
Mr. Dwayne, the item that you're speaking of, then you need to call the state representative or the senators. The city doesn't,
Hard of hearing you.
sir.
I can't hear you.
You must call the state senator or the state representative. The city does not handle I-20, nor do we handle 3132.
I spoke with someone at the Department of Transportation who informed me that they have a contract with the city, and the city's supposed to be doing that job, and it's not being done. That's why I keep bringing it to your attention. That's exactly why I keep bringing it to your attention.
Okay. Mr. Norman, would you come up?
As far as dumping, there's known dumping sites. People dump there each and every time they want to. And it's reported at this one spot that I know of. And they take their time coming out, picking it up. But they get paid to do what? They have 8-hour days.
Mr. Gary is here to address. Can you address what he's speaking of?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we do have a contract with the state, but it's for cutting grass and picking up litter. If it's trees and that type of stuff, if it tell me the location, I'll be happy to see if I can get with Mr. North with the state and see what we can do with it. And if there's any particular areas that you have that need to be cleaned, that you've identified, I'll be happy to discuss it with you and see what we can do.
Mr. Norman will assist you, Mr. Rodman.
As far as property standards, they also get paid. And they're not doing their job. They've been in business a long time. For the city to keep looking like this, it's not supposed to be. Either they do their job or close them down, save the city some money. Each and every one of you up there go down the same roads that we do. What department need to do what? You see it. If you see something that the department is supposed to do, get them on the phone and say, hey, why that's still looking like that? And get it taken care of. They're getting paid to do the job. We shouldn't have to see the job that they need to be doing each year that's not being done. That don't make sense. I'm done.
Thank you.
Yes,
Mr. Roberts. Good evening. Thank you for coming. I did want to acknowledge, we do allocate funds to the department heads, but we don't manage the department heads. The city council don't. The mayor's office is who manages those department heads.
I understand. I just want to bring it to the council's attention.
Okay.
Because you represent the neighborhood.
That's right, and I appreciate that.
Okay?
Anytime it comes to me or any council members, but the administration has to make sure that the department heads take care of that also.
Mr. Roberts, if I may, Mr.
I
Chairman,
have
sorry.
always called the department heads. Always. That's the first thing I do. I get on the phone and I call.
Okay.
But if they don't respond, then I come in here.
Right,
Then you can also call the mayor's office.
Right.
If
Pardon
they
me?
don't respond, because they work directly for the
the
mayor's
mayor.
office.
I've gone to the mayor's office
Yes.
a number of times. Been doing that for years. And the city still looks like this. So what can I say? Thanks.
You're welcome.
thank you.
Councilman Talaferro?
You can go ahead and take your seat, Mr. Roberts. I just wanted to kind of say a couple of things. One, no, he's going? All right, sir. Mr. Roberts, yeah, you can just stand right there. I just wanted to address your concerns, and I get you. And I'm the guy with the broken windows theory, is that it's everybody's responsibility to let us know what's going on around the city. One, we can't be out there all the time. Two, Public Works or whomever is out there, they do their best to recognize things that need to be repairing, such as signs down, graffiti, trees, lighting, you name it, we're on top of it. And I think I can share a little bit about what each of us believe in, is that we don't tolerate things that are not being done by anyone employed by the city. And that includes us as well. So you have a city council person, and I encourage all of my people, that didn't sound right, but I encourage my constituents to take photos, geolocate, send me locations, whatever it takes for me to better express what needs to be taken care of through each department head. And that's the way we fix the things that are going on in our city, is we document that stuff. We don't sit back and we say, look, the place looks like crap, and I've made numerous complaints. But let's start documenting, let's start taking pictures, let's start getting a little bit more information, and to your city council or to your parish commissioner, which we work very closely with. So it's our responsibility to not let our city fall in to the broken windows theory, where if we just leave it alone, somebody else will report it. And then by the time nobody else reports it, then we have a problem. So I encourage you to do the same thing, and tell everybody that you come in contact with to do the same thing. The power of the camera helps us a lot. And if you see something, say something, and then photograph it, geolocate it, and send it to us, and we'll be happy to take care of it for you. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Craig B. Lee. Mr. Lee, welcome to our meeting. State your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes, sir.
All right, Craig Lee, I'm letting Jackie pass the information out before I start, so you guys can see the information. So a few pages I'm putting together, I've compiled specifically to talk about Shreveport being ranked number 5 or number 6 as it relates to family poverty in the United States, and the connection. And I have one for the mayor and Mr. Dark as well.
Craig, while they doing that, have you forgot about Big Mama's celebration, 111 years coming?
111 years, we're gonna do it up. What you guys have, if you look at it, you'll see where Shreveport is ranked in the United States. And on the vertical graph, you'll see that it says Shreveport Bossier, and it brings down the percentage to 14.8, but you can see Shreveport by itself at 17.9%. And this is families that are in the poverty level. And our ALICE report that comes out on an annual basis, which deals with the assets, limited income, constrained employment for the city. These figures come from there in the Census Bureau. So this is high. I mean, we're number 5, number 6 in the United States. And so I'm connecting that, if you look at the next page, to Mr. Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, because his focus on economic development is centered around film, television, entertainment, food and beverage, hospitality, tourism, housing, commercial development. This is a film that Mr. Jackson played in Den of Thieves back in 2018. And you'll see the next page, you'll see how much money that film generated worldwide, which was $80 million. And just so you know, it took about $30 million for that film to be made. The next page, you'll see the current film that's out, which is Den of Thieves 2. That is out right now, and you'll look on the back page, you'll see that that was the #1 movie that was released this past week at $15.5 million. Took about $40 million to make that film. There's a lot of rhetoric that's been going around over the past few weeks from State Senator Sam Jenkins, and this is why I constantly made presentations this past year as it relates to getting this lease locked down for the former building downtown, which is Stage Works now, which used to be Expo Hall. These things need to be knocked down because Mr. Jackson is going into the realm of economic development from his standpoint, and it seems like individuals are trying to hitch their wagon onto what he's doing. Economic development is a piece of a jigsaw puzzle. And so everybody got to figure out what their piece of the jigsaw puzzle is. His piece, like I said, film, television, entertainment, music, entertainment, food and beverage, those particular things. What we have to now focus on is entrepreneurs who can come up with their ideas. Eddie Spencer, who was the band leader for Alter Ego, they are opening up a phenomenal studio where KLK and KDKS is at, and they're focused on music production. Phenomenal studio. We met together. There are other people who are in doing their thing, but we need to make sure that everything that needs to go forward as it relates to completing this deal with G-Unit goes forward because the numbers are there. And as it relates to what we're focused on, and I'm glad that Mayor Arsenault, our congressman who is third most powerful representative, elected official in the entire world, our Congressman Mike Johnson and our governor are all in support of this. But we need to be sending a clear message that the city of Shreveport is solidified behind the economic development initiative that we have entered into and lock this situation down and no longer hold up the Stage Works because people are now coming up with concepts that are just far-fetched. I heard something that State Senator Jenkins is referencing about the Cross Bayou project. I was the lead advocate on that project with Larry English and Paul Pratt. That project is no longer on the table. So we don't need to be grasping straws. We need to deal with legitimate business concepts, and these are the data for you guys.
Thank you for coming. Mr. Chair, that ends our public comments.
Thank you. We have no executive appointments to consider tomorrow. There are no items on the consent agenda or to be adopted. Mr. Dart, would you please proceed with regular agenda legislation?
Sir, before we start, I believe we talked back and forth while y'all were talking. We do want to add the resolution. Marcus, do you have a title for that by some chance? It's generally going to be a resolution rejecting all bids received for IFB, whatever it is, Fire Station number 20 renovations. Marcus, if you've got something better than that, let me know. But we do want to go ahead and move with that. The bids came well over budget. So.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Go ahead.
It's a resolution authorizing the City of Shreveport, Louisiana purchasing agent to reject all bids received for Fire Station number 20 reconstruction IFB 24-060 and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
So that will be something we will ask you to add tomorrow. Thank you. I hope to be as clear and concise as Dr. Vetter was with the rest of this because we have a fairly long agenda. First resolution, or actually the first two, 192 and 193, are a pair relative to the modifications made to the active donation for the North Shreveport Business Association for the substation site, and then 193 requires a 2/3 council majority vote to change the use of that property. 194 is one that I think we talked about a little bit back in December. We are ratifying the execution of some documents relative to essentially a $20 million low-income housing project at Galilee City Affordable Housing LLP. Because it runs through that housing finance agency, you all are required to approve doing that. The next several, 199, 200, 199 and 200 are authorizing the mayor to execute various contract agreements. And you'll notice there are several of these on the agenda this time. We are sort of out of an abundance of caution bringing some things to you that perhaps we might not have before. A couple of cases later, it'll be items that have been to A&E selection or did not go to A&E selection because they weren't big enough, and now there's a change order making them big enough. So we'll try to go through these in a little bit of detail, but not a whole lot. The first one, 199, is with Azteca Systems LLC for the CityWorks software platform that we use for a number of customer service entities. I believe that's for the year starting in February, and it's for approximately $150,000. 200 authorizes the mayor to execute a supplemental agreement with an engineering firm called McKim and Cree for water modeling. They had an initial contract task, but this one is for an additional not to exceed $100,000. 201 is 201, 203, 201, 202, and 203 are cooperative endeavor agreements between the city and the State of Louisiana Department of Treasury. These are for funds that were appropriated last legislative session, and in order to actually be able to spend the money, we have to do these CEAs. 201 is $250,000 for lighting projects throughout the city. 202 is $90,000 for A.B. Palmer Park, and 203 is $150,000 for work at Independence Stadium. 204 is a gas lease request for a little over 112 acres, I believe mostly in Councilmember Bowman's district, if not all. Those, if we get the minimum bid of $3,000 an acre, a little over $338,000 in new revenue to the city. Resolution 1 endorses a grant application to the U.S. Department of Transportation to secure funds from their discretionary grant program. I believe this is for the Amtrak work that we're trying to get started. Resolution 2 is one sponsored by Councilmember Brooks that dedicates the 1700 block of Oakdale Street in honor of Lois Bryant Hughes.
Mr. Chair.
Councilwoman Taylor.
Attorney Edwards, on Resolution 192 and 193, would you please advise the council of the stipulations that have been dismissed?
192 and 193 pertain to the deal with the North Shreveport Business Association, whereby they donated some property on North Market for the construction of a police substation. The previous agreement required that that property remain as a police substation for 25 years. What's before you is an amendment to that act of donation whereby rather than a number of years, it would require the agreement of the recommendation of the administration with the approval of council. That's 192, and then 193 requires that that approval be with the 2/3 majority if that property is to ever become anything other than a police substation. Those two resolutions were the result of some direct negotiations involving the North Shreveport Business Association and members of the council. And one of the things that really stood out from that meeting was the unity of agreement on the purpose of that property and making a difference in the North Shreveport community when it comes to family justice. And that was something that there was robust agreement about, and we built the agreement around that common ground.
And let me also add, Attorney Edwards, that you did an amazing job on negotiating this, on this. And I'm going to ask the council for their support on these two resolutions on tomorrow. And I would like to tell the administration that we please make sure that we stay between the $1.5 million that the citizens allocated for this substation.
Mr. Edwards, wasn't there a piece though with the bond, if not a police station, it still has to remain a government entity building? If you can speak on that.
That property has to remain a public property for for the life of the bonds, which is another 18 years. After the bonds themselves have fully run their course, then the city would be able to sort of have a discussion about whether to alienate or abandon the property, or if the declare the property surplus, auction it off. There are lots of discussions in that future date once the bonds once the bonds have run their course. But between now and then, it has to remain a public property.
Thank you. Any other questions for the city attorney? Any other questions for Mr. Dart?
The lighting upgrades, Mr. Dark, on 201, what is that?
It's essentially no strings attached money, as I appreciate it. We've not been able to determine necessarily what legislator was looking at it. I need to ask Gary and the traffic engineer what their thoughts were on what to do with that. But as I appreciate it, it was not specifically earmarked for any one place.
Okay. So we could just have them throughout the city.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Dart, would you please proceed with introduction of resolutions not to be adopted prior to January 28, 2025?
Yes, sir. Resolution number 3 adopts the system survey and compliance questionnaire that the state legislative auditor's office requires every year. Essentially, it basically says you've complied with the open meetings law and we've complied with the state procurement requirements and a number of other just basic good government stuff that we have to certify to once a year. Resolution number 4 is a cooperative endeavor agreement with the city, between the city and the state of Louisiana. This one is $125,000 for, again, somewhat unspecified recreation improvements, but they are to be along the Bayou Pier area, and we actually have another project that you're going to see a first reading on CEA that kind of goes with that. Resolution 5 is another one of the gas lease assignments that you see periodically. The Cypress Energy Partners bid on the tract, and then once they've obtained the right to drill, they tend to assign it to Paloma, which is the company that actually does the drilling. Resolution 6, 7, 8, and 9, again, are contracts. Number 6 is an agreement with a company called CT Brannon Corporation. What they're going to be doing is doing engineering work to assist the city architect in the design of the 2 pools that were included in the 2024 bond issue. 7 is a supplemental agreement with Baylor Consultants, I believe for approximately $240,000. This is for design work, again, on bond issue projects. It started out as a smaller deal and is expanding to add more projects for that. Number 8 is a supplement with a company called eSource. They are providing some of the assistance in connection with trying to get the automated water meters installed. That's a supplement to theirs for $500,000. And 9 is for $119,500, again, for engineering design work on the HVAC renovations at City Court. Number 10 is one of the 2 resolutions you get every year on insurance requirements, insurance premiums we pay. This one is for workers' comp and for inland marine insurance. Essentially, it's a little over $800,000, and I believe it's a 2% increase over what we're paying currently.
Is this the second one?
The second one is the big one that you get usually in about March. That includes all the liability, which is a much, much larger pot. This one renews earlier in the year, so you have to see it separately.
Where is the oil and gas lease located? What area? Is that,
The
or
one
is
that's
that
being
in
assigned,
conjunction?
the one that's being assigned, or the new one that we've asked you to authorize?
I'm looking at Resolution 5. Is it in conjunction with the Resolution 203, or is that something
No,
different?
it's actually a separate. This 203 is one where we're asking the State Mineral Board to lease property for us.
Mm-hmm.
And what has happened a number of times is that Cypress Energy Partners is the highest bidder for those. And what they do is once they get the lease, they actually lease it to or they assign it to Paloma, because Paloma actually does the drilling, but the two properties are not related. I can look and see if I can, actually, Malcolm, do you know where this one is? Be easier than me trying to pull up the map while we're talking. This is the newest Paloma assignment.
The assignment,
It's 68, more or less 68 acres that was leased about a year, actually almost 2 years ago now.
yeah, hold on, let me,
2023.
They're trying to find where the property is located.
I gotcha. Let me go back to my. So it's mostly in Council District G. Let's see, well,
I know the one that, the 203 one is entirely in a couple of subdivisions in District G. And it's street right of way only. We can get you the information tomorrow if it's too much to look for.
can you, see if I can give you some street references, just a second.
I think it was Santa Monica,
So
Calderwood.
little. Oh, that's I-20. This is I-20 right here.
So it's essentially on the boundary between F and G, just off I-20 there.
That's for resolution
That's,
5.
you're looking at the assignment one, not the new one, right?
That's
Okay.
right, that's the assignment. That's the lease that we did back in,
It says February
2020?
2023.
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Does that get you enough information? Or
Are you good?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mal.
Mr. Dart, would you please proceed with introduction of ordinance not to be adopted prior to January 28, 2025?
Okay, ordinance 1 amends the general fund budget. Internal audit had asked that this be done, and I think had prepared it. They needed a little bit more money in personal services than was in the budget, because I think the benefit structure for one of their new employees was different than somebody who that person replaced. It's not changing the total in the council's budget at all. Ordinance 2 is one of those that Ms. White and I have egg on our faces for, and we apologize in advance. The budget you passed for community development lacked 3 or 4 of the clauses that every other budget ordinance has, and neither of us caught it. And so we're adding those in so that this ordinance looks like the rest of them. There's no change in money on that one either. 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all amending the capital budget to accommodate money that is coming in from the state. 3 is almost $1.2 million to provide funding for the design of an Amtrak station. Ordinance 4 is $716,250 to provide Bayou Pier area improvements funding. This is a project that's been pushed really hard by Senator Presley. Ordinance 5, we had a lot of discussion last year. 5 is not state money. 5 is when Councilmember Bowman asked that we try to find a way to recoup a little bit of money from Paloma, who did some damage to Pines Road. Well, they gave us the money last year. This is appropriating it so we can use it out there on Pines Road.
That's good.
And then 6 is, again, a little over $716,000 that we'll be using for design money and whatever else we can spend it for on University Park.
It's for the drainage.
Be for the street and drainage. This will supplement the bond issue project money.
Thank you. Mr. Dart, would you please proceed with ordinance on second reading and final passage?
Okay, Marcus, number 40 is kind of yours right now, so Stageworks.
Discussions continue. We've had some good progress, hoping to continue that progress and have a firm date for you soon. Discussions continue.
This is postponed through the next meeting anyway.
That's
Until the
correct.
next meeting anyway.
Yeah, it's postponed to January 28th regardless.
156 is zoning case 24-140. This is property at Greenwood Road and Forge. This was postponed last time.
Yes.
157 closes and abandons a piece of the Sanders Street dedication. This is essentially a 100-year-old dedication on which no street's ever been built, and the adjacent property owners asked that it be abandoned. Nobody has any objection to that. 158 is amending some of the sections of the code relative to water billing. It's changing this in response to some of the issues we had with apartment complexes in the last year or so, is changing going forward the deposit on multifamily units that have master meters to where it's $100 a unit, which is considerably more than what we've been getting on those heretofore. It's also providing, actually in response to one recommendation in the latest internal audit, there was nothing in the ordinance for a deposit on a 12-inch meter, and since we do have some, we wanted to put that in the code. The other thing is that we put out sometimes what they call roving meters, where somebody needs one for a construction site or something, and the deposit was less than the cost of the meter, and we wanted to raise that so that if somebody decided to walk off with it, we'd have a little bit more recoupment from that. 159 is zoning case 2461C. This is property on West Canal near West 70th. Wanted to go from R17 to C2. The staff did not necessarily recommend going along with this on where they thought it perhaps some of it should be C1. MPC decided that they would go ahead and accept the request from the applicant. There wasn't any opposition there, and MPC adopted that one unanimously. 160 is the one Mr. Bork talked about a while ago. It's at Hadaway, which is just off of Forbing Road. Basically, the bottom line is what he wants to do can be done, and MPC he agreed to 5 or 6 different stipulations about how to make sure that the property was mitigated so that being relatively near an relatively near a residential area would not be a problem. And again, this one was unanimous. 161 is zoning case 24-165C. It's a piece of land on Henderson that fronts on Piermont that the applicant wanted to build a parking lot on. The staff was not all that crazy about it, but MPC approved it unanimously, and there was no neighborhood opposition at all.
Mr. Dark?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Clark, could you come up and just address a couple of questions I have? Thank you, Council.
And he might as well just stay up here. He might as well just stay up here.
Right. Ask him about 162.
Glad I could help you out.
I appreciate you.
And Mr. Clark, as Mr. Dark indicated, that seems to be a difference of opinion regarding approval and disapproval of this particular site for a parking lot, which I understand is going to be supportive of the business on the southeast corner of Fairfield and Piermont.
Piermont, yes.
But we have yet to see any kind of conceptual drawings, or we don't know how large this parking lot is going to be, other than it could consume the entire, what, is that 2 blocks, or is that 2 parcels?
Yes, sir.
Correct me if I'm wrong. And so I was kind of thrown back by your staff's opinion that because it didn't really align with the master plan, but yet I'm wanting to hear from you, what would alignment look like in the master plan for 2 lots that have been vacant for quite some time? Obviously, once were residential.
Yes.
So there's a little confusion there, and I plan on getting more information before we pass this.
Not a problem at all, Councilman. What has happened, and that is the reason that we're going through
the process of updating the existing master plan and the future land use map, because some of the future land use recommendations that were done, we don't agree with. But we're basically locked in to the future land use map to determine how the city will develop and how properties would be properly zoned. This was one that did not do that. It happens pretty much, it did not do that. The board decided that it was satisfactory with them. Therefore, that's the discretion that they have. We basically go strictly by the ordinance. They have the discretion to go outside the ordinance, and they took that discretion and approved the application. Once we get the information from Ms. Scott, I'll make it available to you if you'd like, but we will review the site plan and make any observations and recommendations to her in order to comply with the ordinance.
But as it stands now, excuse me, the board says it's okay to go ahead and convert or rezone it from a residential to a commercial for the sake of a parking lot.
Yes, sir.
And the parking lot, again, I know I'm repeating myself, but the parking lot
No,
is
no,
there solely to support the business, which already has parking associated with it. Now, I don't know how much parking they intend to have to support the business, or have you received any information which says that the parking lot is going to be used for anything else other than supporting that business?
Only thing is that she's possibly using it for an event center, or it would be used for office use. The minute she submits something to us, we will immediately make sure that you're aware of exactly what she's proposing.
And one thing I do have concern about is that we're asking, or it's as part of the process, that they provide us with a conceptual drawing, is it not? That's part of the process.
Yes, sir.
But is it unfair for us to say, is it unfair for us to have a business spend the money to do a conceptual drawing and then for us to deny that?
If you approve the recommendation of the MPC board, then the zoning is in place. It's just a matter of negotiating with us, not costing any more money possibly, but it's negotiating with us how she complies with the Unified Development Code. And once that's done, then the parking lot will be laid and taken care of. The hardest part was to get by the rezoning part.
And we don't have any, you don't have any inside information that says why they decided to approve it. I mean, I'm just looking for, obviously, we have a difference of opinion. If the opinion, you're going by the letter of the law,
Yes.
and they're going by the spirit of the law, is the way I understand it in legal terms.
I'm sorry, but
No, you're
that
good.
does happen, Councilman, that
I understand that.
we basically go by the Unified Development Code. Sometimes we don't totally agree with the Unified Development Code, but we have to abide by the law. And we just sit back and let the applicant explain to the MPC board exactly what they're proposing. And many times, the board is inclined to not agree with staff, but to approve the application because she's doing quite an investment out of Piermont, and they wanted to see that investment continued.
And that did happen, that the
Yes, sir.
building owner did appear before you and
Yes, sir,
explain
she was
that.
here and she explained to the board
Okay.
ideas about how she's going to invest in Shreveport and make that corridor a much better corridor than
Well,
it
there's
is
no
now.
question, it's a lot better
Yes, sir.
than it was, and it's really, she's done a great job there, no doubt.
And we also gave her a variance for the sign because she's going to have a larger sign than the ordinance requires, but we're trying to use as much discretion as we can with the board in order to keep business development to continue coming into the city of Shreveport.
And the variance of the sign was the size of the
It
sign?
was the
Is that-
size.
Okay. Now, what about the brightness of the sign? I know that we
It-
had some issues with that in the past. I don't know how that ever got resolved or whether it did.
The sign is supposed to, and we haven't been back out there, I'll be perfectly honest with you. The sign is supposed to electronically dim during the day and brighten up slightly during the night. And that's what the ordinance requires, and if it doesn't, then we can send a letter out stating that that's not happening.
But this has been, I know we're deviating from the original subject matter, but the sign has been out there for quite some time.
It has.
Not physically out there, I mean out there as far as I'm concerned with being on the council. So, and what you're saying is we haven't really followed up on the brightness of the sign?
Generally,
I mean, it's
generally,
there,
if
and
it's
I
a
get,
problem,
and
then
I get
we-
concerns from motorists coming from.
And we're very concerned about motorists also. Generally, if it's brighter than it needs to be or it's causing problems for drivers, we will get a call. We haven't gotten a call, but I don't know what it looks like, but I'll ask zoning enforcement to go out and take a look.
When did we receive the initial complaint?
I couldn't tell you that, but I could get back.
Yeah, if you would find that out.
Yes.
And actually just develop a plan for resolving it. You know, if we have to go to the landowner and say, look, just dim it out, because, you know, that's easy to do. I've had issues with other churches that they look great, but they're blinding at night.
Yes.
And so just, you know, give us an idea of what's going on with that.
And that's an easy process.
Has nothing to do with this other, but.
Yes, I mean, but that's an easy process is all I wanted to share with you. The sign is supposedly programmed to automatically do the brightness and the letting the brightness down. It may not be doing it, or it may be doing it, and that's why we haven't heard anything. I don't know if you've seen it or not, to share with me whether or not it's too bright.
Well, what may be too bright for me is
Gotcha.
obviously everybody's
I'll
entitled
make
to
sure
their opinion.
that they go out and measure the
But I'm
brightness.
sure that there's a measuring.
Oh, yeah, we have a tool to measure that
Okay,
and
yeah.
make determinations on whether or not it needs to be lowered. But basically, generally, those sign, because all the sign manufacturers that do work in the city of Shreveport are familiar with the UDC and familiar with us, so generally, those signs meet the requirements.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Mr. Chair, before you go, Ms. Clark, also, I'd like to say about that property, it's no longer an eyesore. It's beautiful. She has done a great job there. But on 159, would you explain to me what's going on there? 159, 2461C,
That's the West Canal one.
over at West Canal.
Okay. This is a situation, I just need to get right to the map. This is a situation where an applicant is applying for zoning from R17, which is a residential zone piece of property that, with a minimum lot size of 7,000 feet. She wants to convert that into a commercial use. It's not totally, sort of crazy because it's right in the middle of nothing but residential zoning property. I'm just looking at what the board did. The board sometimes look at situations and they look at the ability for businesses to come in on property that nothing has happened on for a while, and they will go against the grain and approve. I mean, C1 is the lightest commercial use that there is. It won't be real intrusive, and we still get a chance to review the site plan, and if any mitigation is required, we get a chance to put that in. But they are trying to be as neighborhood friendly and as business friendly as they possibly can.
What they wanted to build in?
A restaurant is what I'm thinking. She came and told. And this one also, is one I'd like to share just a little bit more information to the council about it, if I may. We just adopted an ordinance because we have these meetings periodically where you all want to add additional requirements or additional stipulations, and you would have to send that back, remand it back to the MPC to get those things done. This new concept we have is called conditional zoning. And what conditional zoning is you approve, generally you leave the zoning as it was, like this one is being left as residential, but you approve the use that they are applying for, and you add any conditions that are necessary to make it amenable to the location. And when it comes to council, if council has additional recommendations or conditions that council wants to do, it can happen here and not have to come back to the MPC. And this is becoming very popular because it gives both bodies an opportunity to make recommendations.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Yes, but Mr. Dark needs to read the
I was
others
going to
into
say,
the
we've got
record.
3 more. Why don't you just stay on the front row?
Right.
Okay, no problem at all.
Maybe some more here in a minute. 162 is zoning case 24-175C. This is property on Broadacres Road near Buncombe. As I appreciate it, what this one almost entirely is doing is changing a piece of land that's currently zoned R17, want to change it to RA because he wants to have horses and cows on his property, and apparently no one around him objects. That seems to be the sum total of that zoning case. 163 is C24-182C. This is property on Greenwood Road near Hutchinson Street. This is from C3 and R17 to C4. This one is supposedly for truck parking and a contractor's office. This is another one the staff was not all that crazy about. MPC still approved it unanimously. And the way I understand it, Alan, correct me if I'm wrong, no matter if you approve this, there is still a special use permit that would still have to be approved by MPC in order for the applicant to do what they want to do. Was that going to be your question, or were we going to another one?
I wanted to know, what was the zoning for, because we're changing it. The request is to change it from single residential zoning, from G3 General Commercial Zoning District. So what are we looking at, and what type of trucks are we talking about?
This is a contractor's office. They don't have 18-wheelers or any type of equipment like that, but they have pickups and heavy-duty trucks that they would be storing at this location.
Where on Hutchinson and Greenwood Road, on the corner?
Some of the things that we can do when there are residents is require fencing, require landscaping.
Says it's on Greenwood Road east, about 600 feet of Hutchinson, so it won't be directly.
Yeah. In this instance, it's part of the lot was already properly zoned for the contractor's office, and they're just doing the rest. By zoning at C4, they wouldn't have to get a special use permit. It would just allow them to do the contractor's office as they're planning to do it. We did not possibly agree with it again, and I'm sharing with you that it's because of the future land use map. The future land use map is going to be changed after we complete the update to the master plan, and it will become more in line with what the development patterns actually are. A lot of times we are in total conflict with what's happening out in the community, but the map is showing that it should develop this way.
What is the suggestion from the staff?
The staff would have, and I don't know what we recommended on this, but I think we, again, we said to deny the heavy commercial use because it was in conflict. And I hate to keep saying it over and over again, but it was in conflict with the future land use map that will change after the completion of the update of the master plan. That's the reason I beg so to get an opportunity to update the master plan, because we have a lot of situations in the plan like this.
So say that the master plan is updated, what would still be the staff recommendation?
If the master plan was updated and the future land use map would say that it should be zone heavy commercial, then the staff would recommend in accordance with the future land use map. We use the map, the board, which is a lay board, generally listens to the applicant and make recommendations based on how they feel with the information that they've been provided.
So it's so many houses on Hutchinson Street. You have that particular, I think that was Bishop Brandon's development, his housing corporation. That's right there, and then you go on around and it's Swepco. Do they have the old school? And you go on around the corner, then that part is in the parish until you reach the neighborhood closer to Curtis Lane, correct?
Right.
So I'm looking at this business as something that's going to be right there on the corner of Greenwood Road. And how is Greenwood Road zoned in that area already? Because is that really residential? Because is it inside on the street? Is it on Hutchinson or is it on Greenwood Road?
It looks like it's on Greenwood Road.
Because that's a difference for me. Because if it's on Greenwood Road, there are a number of other businesses that are already there. You have several businesses on that street.
Can I put it on here?
Yeah, from roofing companies
I
on.
hope it works. This is the location right here. So you can see it has commercial zoning on this side. This is residential, but it has the C3 on this side. And a lot of the property is zoned C3 because before the UDC, we did not have C4.
Right. But what I'm saying is there are a number of businesses right there.
Yes,
You
I
have
mean, it's
2020
compatible.
Seafood. You have the church that's across the street. Yeah, Kellogg's Air. You have the roofing company. This is why I'm just trying to have a visual in my brain as to that we're speaking on that corner and not directly inside of the neighborhood where the rest of the businesses are on Greenwood Road before you reach.
Yes, these are the businesses on Greenwood Road from C1 to C3, across the street. This is industrial, this is C3, this is multifamily, and C3 again, and industrial. So there are some residents back here, but primarily it is commercial along Greenwood Road.
You may have one or two houses.
Yes,
That's already been there.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question. Mr. Clark?
Yes, ma'am.
Me and Councilwoman Taylor share that district right there. Will it be a lot of big trucks driving down Greenwood Road close to those two churches? Then you do have little small neighborhood communities that are still there.
Just ask your question one more time, please.
Right. Will this be 18-wheelers going down Greenwood Road in that little area?
It should not be for this particular use. There are 18-wheelers going up and down Greenwood Road, unfortunately, but for this use, it should not bring in heavy-duty 18-wheeler trucks, tractor trailers.
Right. Because when you say it's already zoned commercial, you have Kellogg's Air Conditioning Company there. You have other little commercial companies, but it's not big trucks going down Greenwood Road in that area. You have some, but we don't want to add more.
And this is just a contractor's office. This is not a heavy industrial like truck parking, those type uses.
Okay.
Mr. Clark, what type of restaurant would this going to be?
I don't know, Councilman. I will know tomorrow if you will allow me that time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just one more question for Mr. Clark. In light of your explanation about the expectations of the master plan and the approval or denial based on the current master plan as opposed to the future master plan that you explained to Councilwoman Tabitha Taylor. And looking at mine, it's the recommendations is that the city council adopt the ordinance. So did I hear you correctly in saying that if we had an updated future land use map or updated master plan that I'm talking about, this would be okay?
It would be okay if you look, that's why I showed you.
And so I don't want to penalize a business today for something that could be tomorrow, that hasn't really come yet. And that's why that was my issue for clarification on how do we get here and how do we get there, but we have a difference of opinion. And then I was reading the recommendation, and then you explained it as that if we had the current master plan, this would be a good deal. But since we don't, that's all I have to go by right now.
And the consultants we should be reaching out to you in the very near future. We're at the point where we're starting to finalize and starting to make recommendations in the master plans. The consultants wanted to meet with each of you. They didn't want to meet with you as a body because then that would be a public meeting, and they wanted to just sit down and explain where this is going, how we're trying to get there. And I think you'll have a much better opinion of what's actually happening once they explain everything that they're doing. They've done an incredible job. But like you said, Councilman, things will be different after that happens. And that's what the thinking of the board is, that things will be different. But we are locked into enforcing the law, which is the future land use map. And that's why sometimes the board does one thing and the staff recommends another.
Okay, that's perfectly understood. And one quick question on conditional zoning. I didn't know that we had a voice in conditional. Is that right, conditional zoning?
We just enacted the conditional zoning.
Okay.
I felt like it was senseless. We come down here and we bring the recommendation and the stipulations of the MPC board, and you would say, I want something else done. And the only way you could get that done would be to remand it back to the MPC. So we brought this idea to you where conditional zoning, the board can add conditions and the council can add conditions, and then it becomes law.
So if we have conditions that we'd like to see to approve, I don't like to hold things hostage, but to approve a zoning request, let's just say, for instance, I don't want a lot of blacktop. I don't want a lot of concrete in a residential, was a residential neighborhood. My suggestion is that we incorporate plenty of either shrubbery or, more importantly, trees, in a particular parking lot. I think we miss this as a city to put trees in a lot of the parking lot. I understand it's upkeep, but this is going to be private property. So would that be a conditional zoning request?
You could make that request.
And I would make that to you?
Yes, you just
Or
make
I
us
just
aware,
call Ms. Scott?
and it goes into y'all's records
Okay.
as that added condition before it became law, and now it's law after you all voted on it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Can I go back to my seat now?
Yes,
We got
sir.
one
We got
more,
one
but I
more.
don't think
We
you're
got
going to
one
get too
more.
many questions about a church daycare. So 164 is the last one, zoning case 24-189, piece of property on the east side of Lakeshore near Dill League.
Yeah, I had a question, Mr. Clark, for that one.
Well, if you do, then you got to come back.
Yeah,
It's right there on the corner.
right.
This is from R17 to C1 for a daycare center for the Faith Lutheran Church.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am,
So was this one approved by the board?
it was.
It was, okay. So delete again, like.
So, Mr. Clark, the concern that I have with this, and so if that's going to be a daycare,
Yes,
is
ma'am.
with the business that's on the corner that does the food distribution once a month. at the beginning of the month and the long line that they have going down Lakeshore around Dilly, that will impede traffic. If there is some way, I don't know, I know that they were supposed to hire an SPD officer to direct traffic, but I definitely want to make sure that they do that if kids are going to be right here.
This is,
I can't think of the name of the, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. At the beginning of the month, they have a distribution and,
Food boxes.
yes, the line is all the way down Lakeshore and at Deal League.
and I don't know, that's why I was trying to listen so carefully. You know, daycare centers, basically, they drop children off at 8 to 9 in the morning, and they come back at different times to pick children up. And I don't know if that will interfere, but the traffic engineer for the city of Shreveport will review that
Yes,
and
sir.
make any determinations that need to be
It
made.
will, because it's a line that is like
agree with you.
around the
Right.
building.
Mr. Clark,
By
did
the
you,
time they come and pick up their kids.
did you have anybody show up for this meeting against it?
Don't think so, Councilwoman Bowman, because we don't have a sign-in list or anything in here. So,
Okay.
you know, that's what sometimes happens with NPP meetings. We did have an NPP meeting. We do have a sign-in sheet.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clark.
And so the citizens, it looks like it was about 10, had an opportunity for this to be presented to them, and they take in the responses that the citizens had. I don't know if that was one, but as you know, they submit a report to us of the minutes of the neighborhood participation plan meeting, and we ensure that those things are incorporated.
Okay.
I don't know if that was brought up or not.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clark.
You can go to your.
Okay,
seat now.
thank you.
Now we're done, Alan, so they can't.
Thank you, sir.
You might need a new hip now too, huh? Madam Clerk, is there any table legislation to be removed from the table today?
No, sir.
We have no property standards or ABO appeals to consider today. We have no NPC or ZBA appeals to consider tomorrow. Are there any other appeals, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Are there any reports from officers, boards, or committees? Madam Clerk, is there a clerk's report?
No, sir.
Okay.
70 and 144. We do those? Ordinance 70 and 144? Okay.
We have a request from the city attorney to go into executive session to discuss the following. Mary Bonds versus American Alternative Insurance, suit number 621-119, First Judicial District Court, Kettle Paris, Louisiana. Do we have a motion to go to executive session?
So, second.
It's been moved by Vice Chair Green, second by Councilwoman Taylor. Any discussion? Let's vote to go to executive session.
That passes with 6.
I ask that everybody clear the chambers and please turn off the mics in live feed.
Where you going? Huh? Where's she going? She gotta come back.